Hey everyone, so today we're actually going to be planting some seeds, two different types. The first one is Bluebonnet. It's Texas's state flower, and its scientific name is Bluebonnets texensis. It's actually a type of lupin. It's an annual to short-lived perennial or biennial. It's kind of iffy about the weather. Contrary to popular belief, it is not illegal for you to grow these. It is, however, illegal for you to collect them from the wild. So always buy commercially grown seeds. Alright, so this plant has very large seeds, and a lot of people recommend that you actually soak them in some warm water for like a day or two. And what that does is that it softens up the seed coat. That's important because if the seed coat is hard still, the baby leaves, the cotyledon, and the initial root system might have some trouble emerging. Me personally, I never do that. I mean, if that was the case and it was a serious issue, the species would be extinct by this point because there's no one out in the wild doing that for them. So my plan with this one is I have a tree in the front yard that has a little bed, and I want to grow them in these little plugs right here and plant them out in a bunch of bunches. Maybe even divide them if I can, so I could get more. And from there, I'm hoping they flower and self-seed, so it kind of looks more. Oops, I threw a seed. It looks very natural. So with these type of seeds, since they're larger, they don't get surface sown, so you don't just sprinkle them on the surface and call it a day. With these, you actually need to lay them on the surface, and then you're going to cover them up with a thin layer. According to the seed packet here, it's 1/8 of an inch. So that's a really thin sprinkling of soil. Now let's talk about soil. The type of soil I'm using is seed starting soil. There's a ton of different brands. The one I like to use is let me show you guys the picture. This one from Jeffrey. I find it's very good consistency. It's very airy. You want your seed starting soil to look like this. Very loose. And the difference with seed starting soil to other soils is that it doesn't have a lot of nutrients. It's very airy, very porous. Now there's some companies, I won't say names, that their quality of soil is real bad. If I want to say it in a nice way. There was one time I opened up a bag and half of it was rocks. So the brands I recommend is, again, Jeffrey or Burpee. Burpee recently started supplying some seed starting soil, at least in my area, and I find it's really good, and if anything, it's probably better than this one. This one tends to dry out quicker, which means you need to be a little bit on top of things. Otherwise, if it dries out, your seedlings will die pretty quick. And I like the color of it. As weird as that sounds, it's a really nice dark brown, even when it's dry. So what I'm doing right now is I'm pressing the seeds in just a little bit so I know that for sure they make contact with the soil. So now I get a pinch and I sprinkle it on top. Just like that. That's it for that one. Now, an important thing whenever you're sowing seeds is to label. This, especially if you're like me that you sowed like 400 different types of seeds in the past couple months, you're not going to remember everything. So usually I just label it with the name of the plant, the scientific name, and the cultivar name if it has a cultivar name. Some people like to put the date that they sowed and stuff like that, but I keep a journal for that reason. So there, that one's labeled, and now we're going to go on to the second plant. So the second plant is this one. If you guys can see it. It's the castor oil bean plant. Scientific name is Ricinus cumensis, and the cultivar name is Impala. This one's supposed to be a dwarf, but dwarf is relative. The actual species could get up to like 15-20 feet tall. So this one only gets about according to this, it only gets about 6 feet. So that is dwarf if you think about it compared to 20 feet. This plant has really nice dark leaves. It is poisonous, so if you have small children who like putting things in their mouths, don't plant this one until they're a little bit more, I guess, aware of things, so they know not to put things in their mouth. Or if you have pets that like to eat things, they actually used this plant back in the days to make medicine, castor oil medicine. Supposedly it tastes really bad. So this one also has large seeds. And this is another one that you want to wear gloves. So this plant is a tropical plant. It's actually native to Asia, India, and it's found all over the world now because of people growing it in their gardens, and it escapes. In our area, it's not much of a danger. Now I'm going to show you guys the seed really quick. That right there is the seed. And it kind of looks like a bean. Don't cook it. So with this one, on the other one I sprinkled a bunch of the seed into each nibble cell. On this one I'm only going to plant one in each cell. These are really big plants. They're really hungry. They're tropical. And they actually, again, in the species form is a tree. This one will probably come is a like a small tree, small bush kind of thing. In our area, it's supposed to be a perennial. It will die back to the ground and reemerge and be that 6 feet within one season. So this thing grows crazy. And I'm actually planning on planting it once it germinates in this tropical border that I'm making. So this one requires 1 inch of soil on top of it. So you're going to lay it on the dirt. Let me position the camera like that. And you're going to push it in. Just like that. It doesn't really need to be 1 inch, but it does need to be covered. So I'm going to repeat that same process with all my other ones. And here I'm going to have 4 plants, but I'm only going to keep 1. Now you might be wondering, well, what's he going to do with the other ones? I'm going to sell them or give them away or use them in other projects. And in fact, I'm hoping sometime this year to actually open up a at-home nursery. So I'll probably tell you guys more about that later. So again, finish planting it, always label. The name is Riccinus cumensis and Pala. Boom. Okay, and I'll be right back because I forgot. Oh no, I have it right here. So the next thing to do is to put this. This is called vermiculite. It's actually a form of volcanic glass. It's I don't know how they harvest it, but I don't think it's that environmentally damaging. And in terms of inputting it into your garden when you plant out your seedlings, all it does is add drainage. It doesn't do much. But in terms of growing the seeds, it's actually really, I find it helps a lot. So what you do is you just sprinkle it on top. And what this does is that it stops this top of the seed soil from caking, especially if you live in an area like us that we have hard water. So hard water is where the water has a lot of minerals, specifically calcium and other salts, and that eventually makes a crust on the top. So if you get a crust on the top, the seeds who are burning coming up, probably they might push through or they might not. So it's like, why take the risk? So what this does is that it stops that from happening. The other thing it does is that it stops mosses and algae from growing on top of the surface of the soil, which have the same effect as the hard water. It will form a cake. Now, this vermiculite will grow algae on it, but because it's so grainy, it won't cake over. So your seedlings will be able to push through it. And honestly, algae isn't a bad thing to have. If anything, it's a symptom. So when you're growing seeds and you have algae and moss, that just means you're watering a little bit too much. So keep an eye on that. And boom, those guys are done. And that's how you plant big seeds. And that's how you plant lupin. Texas Bluebonnet, and Castor oil plant. There'll probably be an update video on these guys later, so keep an eye on that.